don't be victims of the phenomenon of poverty of philosophy. Poverty of philosophy. The philosophy that is settled our region and Africa, the philosophy that has led to, well, in certain circumstances, development and inequality. The philosophy of primitive capitalism, primitive accumulation, which is corruption. Don't embrace that philosophy of living off the sweat of others. I believe in this African world of resource from those who are able and distribution to those who are in need. Don't allow people to tell you we are stealing on your behalf. Leaders don't steal. We don't elect leaders to steal. Nobody was the assault should glorify corruption. Oh, that this person stole and shared with you. No. You still return, you share with us one, and then you say you stole on our behalf. Did we send you to steal? If you are in leadership, you have to be upright and accountable. Upright and accountable. Those of you in authority, stop confusing request, demand for accountability with hate speech. That's the digressing from democratic practice in leadership to rule by law. Our philosophy is rule of the law, not rule by law. When you practice that, then it means you digress from the philosophy that took us to the bush. We went to fight not to enrich people, but to correct the situation that was obtaining in this country. People died. We didn't die for the glorification of the corrupt. Down the road, we seem to have digressed. We seem to have digressed to the extent that you people here in Uganda and elsewhere in East Africa clap for the corrupt. You glorify, you glorify iniquity. You don't want to stand up and tell us, those of us who are in the leadership, that you deserve better. I feel bleeding when I see African people drowning in the Mediterranean, running away from resource-rich Africa, going to resource-exhausted Europe, just because the previous generations and our generation have failed to turn the resources of Africa into comfort for our people, to convert the riches of Africa into solace and comfort for our people, so much so that they have to run away from wealth to go and become slaves. The other time they took us on ropes. They were taking Africans on ropes, especially these ones from West Africa. These days, Africans are paying to go and become slaves. Paying, and drowning in the Mediterranean to go and become slaves in Europe. Why? Because the current and past regimes of the African continent should say sorry for letting you down. Now, young people, I want to challenge you. that you should support those of us who still stand up and say no. The struggle for freedom, the struggle for justice should not be in vain. I do not have long to go. Like I've said, I graduated 50 years ago, so you can imagine how long I have to go. It's not very long. Maybe, probably some 10, 15 years. But for you, you still have 50, 60 years ahead of you. Don't accept to pay the price we have paid for you, to repay for what we have gained on your behalf. No. Stand up and tell us, sorry, enough is enough. You have to stop here. What we are managing is not ours. It's not our own estates. It's your resources. We are managing your resources, and we are in power with your will, your authority. None of us puts themselves in power. We are in power because you vote us into power, and therefore we should be held accountable. Accountable across the continent. Not only in Uganda, not only in Sudan, not only in Egypt, not only in South Africa, the whole continent. We should be ashamed of being treated as the third world citizens of the world. We should work very hard to recover our dignity. To stand up among people and say, we are also civilized. You can't be civilized when you are being accused of corruption, of graft, of greed. There is enough to satisfy man's need, but there isn't enough to satisfy man's greed. Because greed is elastic. Greed is elastic ad infinitum ad lucium. Therefore, young people, I implore you, pick the button where we are dropping it and struggle for freedom, for mankind, and for yourselves. I thank you. That's where you are sitting. 50 years ago, that's 1975. I may not look very exciting, but I'm not as dumb as I appear. I graduated one day, and I appreciate the anxiety you have to receive your degrees and go home and celebrate. I'm renowned for talking for long. Today I'm not going to bore you. I was presented with a speech which I had written, but when I went through, I found it was a sojourn in idealism and metaphysics. I'm a materialist, and I'm therefore not going to have recourse to this speech. I'll speak directly and from the heart, and I'll talk to you. Knowledge is a result of experience. Accumulated knowledge and it's elastic. Knowledge is universal and eternal. Knowledge is the source of development, and development is a result of contradiction. Where there is no contradiction, you are in doldrums. For a car to move forward, it must take grip of the road. The contradiction between the road and the tires makes the car move forward. Therefore, you who are going out, don't fear contradiction. Embrace contradiction and use what you think is disadvantage to advantage. Turn what you think is disadvantage to advantage for the good of mankind. You are here as a result of the good deeds of your forebears.
Handshake from the DVC and receive your certificate from the Vice Chancellor.
The world. We should work very hard to recover our dignity, to stand up among people and say, we are also civilized. You can't be civilized when you are being accused of corruption, of graft, of greed. There is enough to satisfy man's need, but there isn't enough to satisfy man's greed. Because greed is elastic. Greed is elastic ad infinitum ad lucium. Therefore, young people, I implore you, pick the button where we are dropping you and struggle for freedom, for mankind, and for yourselves. I thank you.
Our chief guest, Honorable General Kahinda Otafiire. I request for another round of applause for we can't thank you enough for the love and support you usually extend to Kampala International University. Actually, in Kampala International University General, you are at home because you have been with KIU throughout its journey. We have successfully managed to run directors, deans, and heads of departments will be presenting graduates for their awards of diplomas and conferment of degrees. Now, that activity is the long-awaited one, but I will request that we gather the courage to listen attentively and we make sure that we hear our names, we rejoice, we thank our parents for the work well done of bringing us up and paying fees for us up to this stage. But before we allow that activity to take place, I will allow a health break of 10 to 15 minutes. The team up, a health break, so that in 10 minutes we can get back ready and fit to listen for the presentation of the graduates for the awards. In the meantime, I will call upon the Acholi community, our student community from the Acholi. Please, it is your time now to present. I also have another important announcement to make. Given that we are churning out graduates today, it is important that we think about another part of this KIU community. There are some, this activity of graduation was running live on NBS TV. There are also updates on social media handles. If you go to the Twitter account of KIU, Twitter at KIU University.